The session is entitled Setting Up the Space, Infrastructure, Digital Toolkit for Hybrid Learning. Okay, so actually the coming school year is a little bit of a challenge for everyone, I'm sure. We are on the road to moving on to another format, another modality, another type of learning. And when we started remote learning, I don't know if you remember, a lot of us were a little scared. We did not know what we were supposed to do, how we're supposed to do it. And now we're moving on towards hybrid and HYFLEX. And we will take into consideration all the health protocols that we have to remember when we transition towards hybrid and HYFLEX. But we don't know what will happen next. Maybe there will be a time when there is a need for us to go back to remote learning or to eventually go back to in-person or face-to-face. So how do we do it? So I think that's a very essential question to answer. What are the steps that we should be doing in order to decide on the things that we need to prepare for when we do HYFLEX or hybrid learning? So the first thing that I think we should all be doing is assessing your school's current state, right? If you are going to think about what you want to do in the next few years, in the next few days, you have to take into consideration your school community's needs and preferences. Second, what are your teachers' capacity? What is your school's capacity in this particular sense? Do you have physical space? Do you have transportation? Or do you actually have budget for these kinds of things? And of course, the most important part is how will you make it effective? We all want to be transitioning to HYFLEX or hybrid, but how will we make it effective so that our students will learn better? As teachers, the very first thing that we do when we enter a classroom is to understand the context of our students. And when we decide what we want to do in the future, this is also supposed to be the first thing that we think about, context. The first thing that we should be doing is to survey the students, the teachers, and the staff, or the actual community that we're involved in. How many will be part of the face-to-face setup? How many will not be part of the face-to-face setup? The next is we have to survey the spaces that are available in our schools. How many spaces will be used for the HYFLEX or hybrid setup? Are there actual spaces that can be converted into HYFLEX or hybrid? Next is what are the available learning equipment, materials, or resources that we have in our school? Do you have the equipment, the devices? If you think of the laboratories and the materials that the schools that students are using in schools, will you be able to provide for everyone who will be doing HYFLEX or hybrid learning? Let's also not forget the context of COVID-19 because it's still here, it's still there, it's still very much within the things that we have to think about. And we have to ask this particular question. Do we have COVID-19 related resources and areas that we can use so that our HYFLEX and hybrid areas or spaces are safe enough for everyone? Do we have clinics and isolation areas in case someone gets sick? Do we have hygiene related stations like hand washing stations? How are we supposed to make them if they're not available? After we survey everything about our current status or the school status, it's the time where we plan and decide. And here are a few questions that you may ask so that you'll be able to somewhat like envision how it is to be in the next few days or years. So how do you envision your HYFLEX and hybrid learning in your school? What particular grade levels, subjects, or activities should be prioritized? What changes need to be implemented to accommodate the transition? And what learning strategies will be used for this particular challenge or decision? The reason why we want to be able to understand the context of our schools is so that we will be able to plan better and so that the learning spaces and the infrastructure that we will be developing or preparing for will be able to answer the needs of our students and the community that we are in. So again, I go back to the question, how do you set up the learning spaces? First, think about your vision and your learning targets. When you already have a vision and all your learning targets, you think about how you're going to support it. Because that way, you'll be able to know what are the steps that you will be doing to be able to produce or to be able to prepare your school for HYFLEX or hybrid.